Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to unpack one of the most incredible prophecies in the entire Bible, Daniel's first vision. You know, this is basically a timeline of world history, a roadmap given thousands of years ago that lays out the rise and fall of huge empires right up to our time. So let's dive right in.
And right off the bat, you can see this isn't just some dusty old history lesson. This quote makes it crystal clear there's a real urgency here. The book of Daniel was written with our time, the time we are living in right now, in mind. So the big question is, what exactly did Daniel see, and why does it matter so much to us today?
All right, so let's set the scene. The story kicks off during the reign of Belshazzar, the king of Babylon, and this is right on the brink of the empire's collapse. The prophet Daniel has a dream, a vision that is so intense, so startling, that it says his spirit was grieved, and it just deeply troubled him. The vision opens with this really chaotic, really dramatic scene. Just try to picture it. A massive sea, totally churned into a frenzy by four powerful winds that are just clashing from every direction. Now, in Bible prophecy, these kinds of natural elements are almost always symbolic. So, what are we really looking at here? Well, let's break down the code. The winds? They represent strife, conflict, and war. And the sea, as Revelation actually spells out for us, represents huge masses of people. We're talking multitudes, nations, entire populations. So you put that all together, and Daniel isn't just seeing a storm. He's seeing a vision of global political conflict, the constant clash of nations that, really defines world history. And out of this chaotic sea of humanity, this sea of people, Daniel watches as four great beasts come up, one right after the other. Now, an angel later explains to him that these four beasts represent four great kingdoms that will rise up and rule the world. Okay, so the first beast is a lion with eagle's wings. I mean, talk about a symbol of majesty, of strength, and incredible speed. Now, just thinking about history, what powerful, majestic empire first comes to your mind? Yep, it's Babylon. This lines up perfectly with another prophecy where Babylon was called the head of gold. It was the undisputed world power of its day. And get this, the winged lion was a super common symbol in Babylonian art. But the vision also shows its wings were eventually plucked, which represents its loss of power. Coming up next is a bear. It's described as raised up on one side, and it has 3 ribs clamped in its mouth. This beast is definitely not as majestic as the lion. It's more about brutish strength and raw power, and it's commanded to arise, devour much flesh. So this bear? It represents the dual empire that took down Babylon, Medo-Persia. The two sides, the Medes and the Persians, they weren't exactly equal partners. The empire being raised on one side is a perfect symbol for how the Persians eventually became the dominant power in that alliance. Then, Daniel sees a leopard. And you gotta pay attention to the details here. A leopard is already crazy fast, right? But this one has 4 wings, which symbolizes an unbelievable, almost impossible speed. And notice it also has 4 heads, which points to a future division of power. And this is a brilliant illustration of the Empire of Greece. Under Alexander the Great, the Greek army conquered the known world with just breathtaking speed. But after his sudden death, the empire wasn't passed down to a single heir. Nope, it was divided among his 4 leading generals. And that's perfectly symbolized by those 4 heads. Incredible. And this brings us to a really crucial spiritual point. History isn't just some random series of events. This quote explains that each one of these powerful empires was allowed its time on the world stage. Each one was given a period of testing, and one by one, each one failed, and its power was taken and given to another. Okay, let's move on to the 4th beast, because this is where the vision takes a really dramatic and frankly terrifying turn. This next beast is unlike anything Daniel had ever seen before. Just look at this comparison. The first 3 beasts, they were animals you could recognize: a lion, a bear, a leopard. But Daniel can't even compare this 4th beast to anything on earth. He just calls it dreadful and terrible, exceedingly strong, with these huge iron teeth. And most importantly, it was diverse, or different, from all the beasts that came before it. This 4th beast represents the Roman Empire. Its military might and its crushing power, symbolized by that iron, were just unparalleled. Rome didn't just conquer, it devoured. It trampled and it broke entire nations into pieces.
But then, Daniel hones in on something even stranger. The Roman Empire eventually breaks up into about 10 kingdoms, which are symbolized by 10 horns. And then, from among them, a little horn starts to rise. Now, this isn't just another political kingdom. It's described as having the eyes of a man, symbolizing intelligence and cunning, and a mouth speaking great things. This is a whole different kind of power. And the prophecy gives a very specific timeline for this power. It would rule for a time, times, and the dividing of time. Now, in prophecy, this phrase calculates out to 1,260 prophetic days. And based on the principle of a day representing a literal year, this points to a 1,260-year period of influence. The source material identifies this power as the papacy and notes that its period of supremacy began in 538 AD and ended precisely 1,260 years later in 1798, when the Pope was taken captive.
But right as this earthly power seems to be at the very height of its influence, the vision makes this sudden, dramatic shift. The camera, you could say, pulls away from Earth and zooms right into the courts of heaven, where a great judgment is about to begin. A judgment that's going to address all the chaos we've just witnessed. Daniel sees thrones being set in place, and then he sees God the Father, the Ancient of Days, taking his seat to preside over this great judgment. I mean, the imagery here is all about purity, wisdom, and absolute, unquestionable authority. And the sheer scale of this is just staggering. Daniel sees more than 100 million heavenly beings ministering before the throne. So this is not some secret closed-door proceeding. The entire universe is watching as the judgment was set and the books were opened. So what is the final outcome? What happens because of this heavenly judgment? Well, it's a threefold finale. First, the dominion of that oppressive little horn power is taken away forever. Second, the beast itself is totally destroyed. And third, and this is the most wonderful part, the kingdom and dominion under the whole heaven are finally given to the people of God, the saints, to possess forever and ever. So as we start to wrap this up, let's just make sure we've got the main takeaways. This isn't just a history lesson, it's a powerful message of hope. It shows that no matter how chaotic human empires get, God is ultimately in control. All right, so let's do a quick personal review on one of the most critical points. What was it exactly that made that little horn power so different from all the purely political kingdoms that came before it? Well, the crucial difference, as the source material interprets it, is really its nature. It rose up after the other kingdoms. It was this unique blend of religious and political authority, and its main focus was on challenging God directly by speaking against the Most High, by persecuting God's people, and even by attempting to change God's own law. It represented a counterfeit system of worship. And that brings us to our final thought for today. Think about it. From Babylon to Medo-Persia, Greece to Rome, and all the powers that followed, this one prophecy has unfolded with pinpoint accuracy for over 2,500 years. So if the past was foretold so precisely, what does that tell us about the final part of the prophecy? The judgment and the promise that the kingdom will finally be given to the saints? It means we can have absolute confidence in God's final victory. Thanks for joining us for this explainer. And hey, be sure to subscribe for more deep dives that make complex topics clear.